Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
I also completely forgot to ask Courtney if she was ready. I was just like, okay, well, we're just going to start now. So,
I was actually cleaning something off of my mic, so I'm glad it said recording in progress because I was like, oh, I got to stop touching my mic.
well, like as soon as it said recording in progress, I was like, oh, because I was like, whoops, I forgot to. So I'm just going to edit out both of those real quick at the beginning because, I don't know. We're like, okay, we did our chit chat. And I was like, all right, we're going to record now. And then I'm like checking all my settings and I'm like, well, I'm ready. Guess Courtney is.
Hope you're ready. Here we go.
This is on my timeline now. So good luck. Just hop on. Here we go. Yeah, so we're coming off of a holiday weekend. So I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't be this tired after getting a nice long weekend. But then today, the first day back from the weekend was like super busy with work stuff and then recording. And then my child didn't take a nap and then she didn't want to go to bed. And then, all that good stuff. And so, yeah, it's just a long first day back from a break. So.
Yeah, I was very tired. I got off work and laid in bed for 2 hours and literally could not get up. Like Kevin was like, "Are you okay?" Because I could not get up. I was just, I don't know. My body was done existing.
You're like, no,
I guess
I'm melted into this forever.
And then I was like, I need to get up and take a shower because I haven't taken a shower in 3 days because where I was at, the water smelled like sulfur and I couldn't do it again. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. So
you're like, I'd rather just have the mild BO smell than the sulfur smell. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Well, I didn't really sweat because it was cold.
True,
and I got in a hot tub Saturday night. So that just kind of cleaned me off.
Good enough.
That washed it off,
Totally. So, but so the hot tub did not have the sulfur smell.
It did not. Isn't that weird?
Oh, that is very weird.
Didn't smell it. Or maybe I was too drunk to notice. But I think I would have noticed. But I didn't recall it because then it was also like it was outside, so I don't know if maybe it wafted better. Yeah. But I also know there was a bunch of filters, so maybe it could kind of filter.
That makes sense.
I don't actually know how that works, but
well, I was gonna say something really dumb, but I was gonna be like, oh, well, maybe it just I'm like, can you boil off the sulfur? And then I'm like, clearly that hot tub is not boiling because your body would not be in it then.
It was warm, but it was not that
ignore
warm.
that question. Just going off the rails on this Tuesday night here, guys. We apologize. Sometimes our banter is on point and we got stuff to say and we got funny stories and jokes, and sometimes we just
yawn through half the intro. It's it just be that way.
Not important, but side story, we took our daughter to Build-A-Bear this weekend because during the month of their birthday, they get a birthday bear that's a pay your age, so you pay however old they're turning. So I was like, oh, we had nothing to do today, let's go, get that. And of course, as soon as we walked in, she saw this giant blue and orange dinosaur that she fell in love with. So we had to get the birthday bear for me.
That's not the pay your age. That's the full price dino.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the 20, however much the stupid dinosaur was. But she loved it very much, and I was like, okay, well, I can't say no, whatever. So we did that one, and then we're doing the other one. I'm trying to get her all excited and the process, and then she has the dinosaur. She's just like, all right, I mean, have fun with your bear, Mom. Clearly that bear is for you, so you just do your thing. And
yeah, that bear's not for me.
Yeah. But I did let her, or I did convince her to pick out a shirt for the bear. Because last year we went to get a bear, she didn't want any clothes. I tried to I love that part of Build-A-Bear, getting to pick all the outfits. Yeah. But she was not having that, and just wanted a naked bear. So this year I did get her to pick a shirt, and it's the orange birthday shirt that says "Happy Birthday" with a giant dinosaur on it. I'm like, cool. We just got this theme going on. And then she insisted on pushing her dinosaur through the entire mall in her stroller that she put him in, and then off she went. And I was like, all right, well, that's keeping you on track and not wandering off. So I'm like, all right, cool. So
have fun.
That's what we did. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know where that story came from. I just realized I had personally not talked to Courtney about the dinosaur yet because she was out of town this weekend. So I felt the need to share because clearly she is very invested in all of Millie's stuffed animals. So I had to make sure she was up to date.
Yeah. I'm keeping a tracker. I just wrote down those two and adding it to my Millie stuffed animal tracker.
We all got one.
What if I did that?
I mean, you are really good about making notes about things that people mention throughout the year. True. So that would be something you would do to be like, okay, don't get this. She already has this.
I also have like the weirdest fucking memory where I can remember like oddly specific things, but not other things. So like I do remember like weird certain things like that sometimes, like what stuffed animals maybe some like some kid in my life has, but then I have plans and I forget them. So you never know what I'm going to remember. I'll bring back a memory from like 7 years ago about the little tiniest thing. I'll remember that. But I won't remember that you told me to make sure and do something on a certain.
So you are very good at remembering those like little events from like high school, college, like whatever. Like you'll mention stuff and I'm like, that happened? And sometimes like I'll think about it more. I'm like, that did. And sometimes I'm like, no, that escaped my brain completely. Like you could just make up something and be like, yeah, this happened. And be like, cool, that's great. Because I have no memory of that whatsoever.
It's like I have selective photographic memory. Like I can remember like what I said, what you said, what they said, everything about certain things. And then other stuff, gone. Just gone.
Like it's just disappeared. Yeah.
Like our recording schedule, when every day I'm like, oh yeah, we're supposed to record today.
Like, oh yeah, that is today.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we've both like separately forgotten, but I don't think we've ever both forgotten at the same time. So that's pretty good. Like we just keep each other accountable. I don't think we've ever like gotten to the next day and been like, oh shit, we were supposed to record last night and we both forgot completely.
Yeah, because it's pretty regular.
Yeah.
Just except when stuff like this happens that we gotta like alter it. But
yeah.
But speaking of recording, that's what we're here to do, and that's what we're gonna do. And then we don't have any updates because I was gone all weekend and I had bad service and just wasn't on my phone. So I don't know what happened true crime wise this weekend. So
I have no idea either. I don't.
Oh, I did see something. I probably shouldn't bring this up because I'm going to be talking out my ass, but
perfect.
There is a woman from Cheatham County, Tennessee, who was on like a road trip with her boyfriend, who now no one's heard from her for a while. Like it seems like the Gabby Petito case all over again. And like she was last seen, there's like Walmart footage of her, and her brother was like, she looks very scared. Like he could just be like, I think something was wrong in these photos, but like no one's heard from her. They don't really know what happened, where she is. So hold on, let me look up her name.
That's kind of scary, and hopefully that will have a positive outcome. And of course, if you guys see or hear anything related to this, please contact your local authorities.
Okay, her name is Nikki Alcarez.
Okay.
So yeah, she was last seen Saturday, May 27th in Redding, California. It was at a Walmart. And then it looks like in one picture or like, there had been an incident, like a domestic incident. And like in like the deputy's like body cam photos, like she had a black eye. So they're thinking like something was happening to her. So that was on May 4th. This like body cam image from like a domestic incident happened.
Gotcha.
Wait. Then I just saw an update that she has made contact with her family. So you know what? Happy ending already. It was literally posted an hour ago. Like I saw this like a few days ago. That's what happens when you scroll down and then scroll back up, I guess. But so she has made contact with her family and they're just waiting to hear more. So and that's our episode this week. Everyone go have a cup of coffee. Oh God. If that doesn't describe me as a person, I'm so fucking unhinged.
If this intro does not describe us as people and this podcast, I don't know what does.
It's Gemini season and I'm showing my Gemini right now. Okay.
So if you guys are still here, thank you. And we're going to get into this episode.
I'm going to get into it right now. All right. Our sources this week are a documentary called How to Catch a Serial Killer, Murderpedia, thesun.com, the Daily Mail, the Guardian, and the Liverpool Echo. So on March 19, 2011, Sian O'Callaghan was a 22-year-old personal assistant and was out with friends one night in a Swindon nightclub. So Sean was in a stable relationship with her boyfriend, Kevin Reap. She got along well with her family, and everyone said they were just kind of a nice family, just your average family. And so she'd gone out with her friends and decided that she wanted to go home. And she was last seen on nightclub CCTV footage at 2:52 a.m. leaving the nightclub alone. So you can see her leave the club and like go along the road, but she was never seen again. And she was actually about half a mile from the flat she shared with Kevin. So she wasn't that far like to walk home. So at 9 a.m. the next day, Sean's mom, Elaine Pickford, heard from her son Liam that Kevin was becoming concerned about her. She hadn't come home. He hadn't heard from her. So he did speak to the police and reported her missing. So the police came to Kevin's home in plain clothes where Liam and Kevin were, and they separated them and interviewed them individually, I guess to make sure they weren't like coming up with a plan or a story.
Yeah.
In Wiltshire, police began checking hospitals, Sean's phone, and bank records, but they didn't find anything. So here they did decide to intensify their search and brought in a top detective, Steve Wiltshire. And he was called in because they decided to escalate the search to the top senior detective on the force, and he decided to go quickly to Swindon to figure out the best plan of action. And I don't know if this is common of like UK police, but in both ones we've done, they've taken it seriously very quickly.
Yeah.
So UK listeners, let me know, like, did they take missing adults very seriously, or is this just like two like one-off cases that I happen to find?
Yeah, like is it typically like this, or are these cases just like more well known? And so like does this happen a lot with like not as high profile, not, I don't know if these are high profile cases, but like less high profile cases that kind of get swept under the rug that maybe we don't know about, where it wasn't taken seriously, but because these have so much information around them, I don't know. But yeah, let us know.
I don't know also because both cases are two white women with like, they were not sex workers, which I guess we will see a little bit further in this case of like missing sex workers whose cases weren't really investigated as much. So, I mean, maybe that's kind of the difference. But even so, I feel like sometimes in the US, even if it is someone they don't consider like a high risk victim, they still don't take it that seriously.
Oh, yeah. It's still always just, well, maybe they just wanted a night away. Or if they're teenagers, like, oh, well, they're just teenagers. You know how they are. Yeah, it definitely seems to not get taken seriously no matter what here in the US.
Yeah. So telephone trace showed that at 3:24 a.m., half an hour after she left the club, Kev sent a text to her saying, worried. Her phone pinged a tower in the Sabernac forest. So they decided to urgently search the forest. And the forest is 15 miles from the nightclub. So the only way she should have gotten there, like in that time frame, was by car. They're like, there's no way she can walk 15 miles in half an hour.
Yeah, no.
Not going to happen. So now they're like, could she have been kidnapped and could she still be alive? So they did treat it like a crime in action. So again, this is being like top of their list, really seriously taken, really seriously searching for her. And on March 22nd, Sean's family and friends came to help the search, and strangers even came out to help the search. And the forest is pretty big and, it's a forest, so it's kind of hard to search. And they didn't really have much to go on except just that like her phone pinged in this area. They don't have like anywhere they can like narrow it down. And unfortunately, the search didn't come up with much. And an anonymous donor also put up a 20,000 pound reward for information that would lead to finding Sean. So Wiltshire continued to try and follow the only other lead he has, which is the CCTV footage that showed her leaving. So they see her walking down the street and headlights appear, and the car was stationary for like a minute and 4 seconds when she walked toward it. They can't really like see if she got into the car, but she must have, because at a later point down the road, she's not seen on CCTV footage again. So the path she'd be walking, she's not seen again. The car stops. That's the last time they saw her. So they're like, she had to have gotten in this car for some reason.
Yeah.
So the car pulls away and Sean's no longer on her path. So they tried to take what little they had of the car to experts to identify it. And it was determined to be a 2007 Toyota Avensis. So police then get another piece of CCTV footage and they see on the side of that car that there's a yellow square. So this can indicate that it's a taxi. So now they're like, getting more clues. Then police decided to check all police cars footage around Swindon, and they found a Toyota Avensis driving the other way, and it had the plate number. So now they have the car they see driving all around, last seen with her, and have the license plate number, which is why we should have CCTV footage.
Yeah, it's pretty good evidence to start working with there.
Yeah. So they linked this to Christopher Halliwell. So he was a taxi driver who lived in Swindon, and he'd been married to a woman named Lisa Brine, and they had 3 children together, 2 daughters and a son. He eventually left Lisa for a neighbor, Heather Widowson, and he moved in with her a few doors down. However, he did frequently have sex with sex workers and frequent one-night stands, so he's not necessarily a good partner.
Yeah.
So he did kind of seem like an unlikely suspect, though, like no really like history that they saw besides being a shitty boyfriend or husband. So he told them that he stopped picking up around 1:30 a.m., but he didn't go home, if that's true, and was still seen driving around Swindon for another 90 minutes. So they kind of knew he was lying, that he's like, oh, 1:30 I stopped, I went home. They're like, but we see you on all the CCTV footage driving around after that. And he'd even told the taxi company he was going home, but he didn't. They decided to trace him. On Tuesday night, he was seen putting missing posters for Sian on the back of his car, and he was also seen cleaning the back seat of his vehicle behind the passenger seat with a blue fluid. And he was also seen depositing items in trash cans at various locations, and they actually ended up recovering like some seat covers that he'd thrown away. And he was also seen burning things in the middle of the night. So all
some pretty big suspect behaviors there.
Yeah. However, even though seeing all this, they don't arrest him because Wiltshire wants to find Sian and not just be able to prosecute him. Like, he's not just thinking of a case. He's thinking that Sian could still be alive and that they could find her. So he's thinking, like, if Christopher kept her alive and they're following him, he might go back to wherever he's keeping Sian. And if they just arrest him, he might not tell them at all. So, however, they had been tracking him for 24 hours and he still hadn't led them to Sian. So it's getting less and less likely that he just kidnapped her. And more data from her cell phone helped them narrow the search in the forest. It seemed the most likely spot was a local beauty spot called Barberry Castle. And Wiltshire felt this was the best location because it was within the range of the telephone data, but also close to Swindon. And now, again, the window for finding Sian alive is just really closing in. So Wiltshire decided to try and trick Halliwell into leading them to her. So he started like releasing selective information to the media. So they kind of have a sequence of information to be released so that he would know, like, they're getting closer and closer, like, oh, we're finding this, we're finding this, we're finding this. Like, they're really wanting him to like return to wherever he left Sian and like feel the pressure, kind of being like, oh, I didn't cover this up well, like something that'll lead them back to where it is.
Yeah.
However, after hearing this, Halliwell goes to a chemist and bought a large quantity of pills. So now they're like, okay, we can't risk him dying by suicide, so they arrest him.
Yeah.
So since Halliwell was arrested under suspicion of kidnapping, the police are allowed to have what is called an urgent interview. So basically, usually when you arrest someone, they take them back to the police station and like interview them, give them an opportunity to get a lawyer. Like, it's a very like set guidelines of how you're supposed to proceed. But with an urgent interview, they can interview them at the place they arrest them. They don't have to take them back to the station. They can interview them right now. So Wiltshire asked the arresting officers to ask him, is Sian alive and where is Sian? But he said no comment to these. So under police procedure, he should have then taken him to the police station, booked him, allowed him a lawyer, asked him again. But Wiltshire's wanting to see if he could get like the urgent interview extended so that like he himself could ask the questions versus like the arresting officers, which I'm like, I get, but is he really going to tell you anything more?
Like, I don't know, maybe as a detective, I don't know how it is in the UK, it may be different, but it's like you have more like specialized like interrogation training. So he's like, oh, if I can ask the questions, like I'll know how to like get it out of him versus like maybe the arresting officer wouldn't, maybe.
Yeah, a little. He uses his own methods, but we'll get to that.
I did it. Yeah.
So Fulcher then made the executive decision to extend and conduct the urgent interview himself. So he's making this decision like, I'm saying I'm extending it. I'm saying it's allowed. And he did have someone there to record everything so he could try to like show any court the logic behind his decision making. So Fulcher asked the officers to take Halliwell to go to Barbury Castle because he felt that was most likely where Sian was and he would meet them there. So they're now taking him from where he was arrested to another location so Fulcher can meet them there. And the officers were even like, are you sure you want to do this? They're like, are you sure? And Fulcher was like, yes, there's no other option. Basically, just do what I say. So Fulcher asked him the questions and he was basically still saying like, no comment. And he said like, Halliwell was saying like, I want to go to the police station. I want my lawyer. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to say anything. But Fulcher continued to like plead with him and like talk to him. So Halliwell eventually said, you have a car, we will go, but didn't really elaborate any further. So he directed them to Uffington, which was 15 miles north of Barbury Castle. And it was a windy road with a 12-foot bank on the side. And Halliwell said it was dark and he pushed her down the bank, is what he said. So Fulcher called in a search team to look for Sian. And Halliwell eventually said to Fulcher that they should have a chat. So he's like asking Fulcher, like, what's wrong with me? He was saying he was a sick fucker, but he could get help. And then eventually he said, you want another one. Halliwell agreed to take him to another victim that he was responsible for. He described another girl that he'd taken from Manchester Road in Swindon. He said it was a sex worker in either 2003, 2004, or 2005. But that he could take him to the exact spot he had buried her. So Fulcher agreed to take him to that spot. And this is where it gets, if it wasn't dicey already, even more dicey, because many believe like this is when Fulcher should have just taken him to the police station and booked him because he's admitting to a murder and not another kidnapping. So you only get the urgent interview because you think it's like a crime in action. Yeah. And now it's like, you taking him there is not going to save someone. He's just reporting another murder. And this is really where a lot of people believe like police misconduct occurred. And it's been about like 4 or 5 hours since his arrest and he hasn't been offered a lawyer or anything. So it's like, not great. So they drove for about 45 minutes to the location to Eastleach. I hope I pronounced that right. I forgot what it said in the documentary. I'm sorry, Lucy, if you're listening.
I'm sorry, Lucy, we're trying.
It's also so hard, like, listening to people with a British accent say a word because they have their own little dialect. So I think I'm saying it like they're saying it, but I'm not. You know what I mean?
And I know we've definitely looked up, like, how to pronounce cities on, like, different websites. And it's like, here's the pronunciation. And then people who live there have written in and been like, nope. And I'm like, we looked it up, though. I know it's not right, but we tried.
I'm trying to listen to them saying it, but it's very hard.
Yeah.
But this was about 17 miles north of Uffington. And he showed Fulcher the exact location where he thought the body was. Then Fulcher said they were going to take him back to the station and talk about it all over again. And Halliwell didn't want to talk about it again. On the way back to the station, police did find Sian O'Callaghan's body. So he was telling the truth about where he had pushed her off. So police began searching Halliwell's home, and Swindon had a lantern vigil for Sian. And Mick O'Callaghan, her father, spoke to the press and described Sian as a bubbly, friendly, caring, and lovely girl. And he thanked Steve Fulcher and his team for their work to find Sian.
So then on April 5th, 2011, detectives confirmed the second set of remains where Halliwell had led Wiltshire. And those remains belonged to Rebecca Godden. So she would have been 29 years old. And Becky's mother, Karen Edwards, said she had last seen her daughter in 2002. So she had asked her to come home, and she had declined and said that she would come home when she was clean. So Becky had become addicted to drugs and was working as a sex worker. And her mom, Karen, had really tried to help her, but just like didn't have much success. Like she's trying to get her to come home, and she's like, no, I'm going to wait until I'm clean, and just couldn't get herself there yet. So the police were the only ones who knew that Halliwell had confessed before going cautioned, which sounds like what America's like, sounds like the Miranda rights in America, like the same kind of, you're being cautioned, like your rights or whatever. So they thought it would be pretty easy to like just get him to repeat what he had already told Wiltshire, like, no problem, you already like shared this information, you'll do it again. But when they got back to the station, that was not the case. So Halliwell got a lawyer and just kept saying no comment. And the confession was not made in the police station in front of a lawyer. So at this point, you only have the word of a police officer and a member of police staff who was taking notes. So without like an actual quote confession, their case would just fall apart in trial because it was done so off the books, off the record, that it wouldn't really hold up. So in January of 2012, 10 months after the arrest, the case was ready to go to trial. So Halliwell was still refusing to make a formal confession to the murders, and his attorneys were now talking about Wiltshire and how he had broken PACE, which is Police and Criminal Evidence Act laws. So the PACE laws govern police power to protect citizens. So they believe that with the second urgent interview and driving around for 5 to 6 hours before going back to the police station, that these laws were broken. So as a result, they requested that any conversations between Wiltshire and Halliwell prior should not be admissible and should not be presented in front of the jury. So Wiltshire tried to defend himself by saying this was an extreme circumstance and that he had to take extraordinary measures to find Sian. Others believe that he just undermined getting justice for Sian, and the judge did rule that the discussions between Wiltshire and Halliwell were inadmissible. So they believe that he engaged in oppression to get the confessions because he had told Halliwell that if they go to the station, that he'll just be vilified by the media, like everyone would know his name, like just really like bullying it out of him, So they're like, we believe this evidence is unreliable at this point.
Yeah, which is frustrating because obviously like that did lead them to that, but it's like you're basically telling him like, you better tell me or your name's like, you're basically like bullying him into telling you, like you can't.
Yeah,
that's not really a good like interrogation method.
Yeah. However, after the confessions, police did find forensic evidence. So they did find Sian's blood in Halliwell's taxi and traces of his DNA on her body. So fortunately, they did have this forensic evidence tracing Halliwell to Sian. So this trial could go ahead, based purely on this forensic evidence and like not even getting into the confessions. But like nothing could be said like that about Becky Godden, and the charges against Halliwell for the murder of Becky Godden should be dropped. So obviously Karen is just devastated by this. Like she, after all these years, thinks that she has answers. And then now it's like, well, even though he confessed to it, it's not going to hold up in court. Like we can't do anything with that at this time.
Yeah. And police are like, we promise we're going to get justice for your daughter, like all this. Yeah. And then it was like, she just got told like, nope, sorry.
Yeah. So Halliwell was eventually convicted for Sian's murder, and after his trial, the truth was made public about Becky Godden. So an investigation by the Independent Police Complaints Commission concluded that Wiltshire should face charges of gross misconduct, and an independent panel arranged by Wiltshire Police found him guilty of breaching PACE guidelines and inappropriate contact with the media. So he was given final warnings about both, but was allowed to keep his job, but then did end up resigning. In November of 2014, they did reopen Becky's murder inquiry, so they conducted a fresh search for evidence in the case, and they searched a house in Swindon, hoping to find any clues. So Karen asked Halliwell to please confess about Becky. He was questioned by a new lead police officer, and there is footage of this, and he does appear to be offering the police a deal. He's like, I'm going to offer the confession, but I do want to be left alone and like don't keep coming to me about like other murders, but the police say no deal. But then there was a breakthrough, and they did find soil on a shovel that placed Halliwell in the field where Becky was found. And Becky's friends also gave evidence against him, and now they have enough to bring him back to court. So the judge ruled that due to his previous conviction for Sian, his confessions were now admissible. So Halliwell was found guilty after only 2 hours of deliberation and was sentenced to life imprisonment. So Sian and Becky's families do support what Wiltshire did, but they do understand the legal aspect of it as well. They are advocating for PACE laws to be reevaluated. Wiltshire was unable to find further work in the UK and currently works as a security consultant in Somalia.
So Wiltshire also wrote a book that has like really amazing reviews on Amazon. I thought about buying it and reading it for this case, but all the reviews, it sounds like it's more his story and goes like really in depth into all these laws. So I just didn't feel like it was necessarily beneficial for what we're doing, but definitely go read that if you want more insight from him and kind of everything around this, because it does have really amazing reviews on it.
Yeah, definitely. So police continue to investigate whether or not there are more victims. They do think that Halliwell could possibly be linked to 27 other crimes. And when searching, they found about 60 items of women's clothing that they believe Halliwell had kept. So they've only been able to identify 2 pieces. One was a cardigan worn by Becky, and one was a high-heeled boot worn by Sian when she was abducted. And Halliwell supposedly drew 12 sketches of areas where police believe he could have also dumped bodies. And Wiltshire said many women came forward after the fact, telling stories of near misses with Halliwell. And as we mentioned in a previous episode, he was also a suspect in Claudia Lawrence's disappearance. So there's not like a lot of evidence for that case specifically, but it can't really be ruled out at this point. He's also a suspect in the disappearance of Sally Ann John. So Sally Ann was 23 years old and a sex worker who frequented the street where Halliwell lived. She disappeared in 1995 and has never been found. Police did try to find evidence linking him to Sally Ann, but didn't find anything of significance. But a friend of Sally Ann's is convinced he's responsible for her disappearance and likely murder. So she said that she had a bad experience with him. He had paid her for sex one night, but she ran away when he started to put his hands around her neck, and she had a bad feeling about him and thinks that he was one of Sally Ann's regular clients, so he could be responsible. There were also a string of rapes and murders in northwest England that they think he could be linked to. So Linda Donaldson, Maria Christina Requena, I'm sorry if that's not pronounced correctly, and Julie Finley are all possible victims. So Linda was a sex worker who vanished from Liverpool's red light district in October of 1988, and her body was found 20 miles away. Linda's murder follows Halliwell's pattern of picking up his victims in one district and disposing of them in another. And Maria's dismembered body was found in 5 bin bags in a nature reserve. She was 26 years old. Julie, who was 23 years old, was found strangled to death in 1994. Halliwell is also being suspected in other crimes near where he lived in Wiltshire, including Sandra Bruin, who disappeared in 1994, Tina Pryor in 2001, and Tai Hae Win in 2005. Michaela Haig, 25, was also stabbed 19 times in 2001 when she was picked up by a blue Ford Sierra. And as she lay dying, she was actually able to give the cop a description of her attacker. And the photo fit produced from this description is said to look strikingly like Halliwell. So police really don't believe that Becky and Sian were his only victims. They think criminals usually start with smaller crimes and then escalate to murder. And if he can be connected to the other victims, they seem to be typically sex workers or other women who are out alone at night. So we may never really know how many murders he's actually responsible for because, I mean, we saw this with Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. Like, he purposely selected women that not many people would notice when they went missing. So these are all the ones that we know of who could possibly link to him, but then how many more are there that their bodies have never been found? No one has ever reported them missing. Like, it seems very similar to that case.
I did find it very interesting how they thought it was like a lot of especially sex workers in the area. And then like Becky was a sex worker, but Sian was just walking late at night, which could kind of give the implication. And honestly, same with Claudia Lawrence, because she was walking very early in the morning. So I'm like, could he be tied to like these others? Because it's like, it does kind of fit the profile of like, oh, it's someone out alone, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
Yeah.
I hate that he's so shut lip. I'm like, how did you get Sean in your car? Like, did you just say, like, I'm a taxi driver, I'll give you a ride home? And like,
Yeah.
you know, like the other women, if it's them, I could understand because it's like paying for a service, you know what I mean? And then you get in the car and then
Yeah.
things escalate. But there's so many like details more. I just wish he would talk. I just need him to say more.
Yeah, definitely. But those are the murders of Sian O'Callaghan and Becky Godden, plus the possible murder of multiple other women.
But just very sad.
Yeah.
Just really, really sad. And just crazy how they caught him and got the
Yeah.
confession. And it's such a double-edged sword because if Steve Wiltshire hadn't done the things he had done, they wouldn't have found her and they wouldn't know any of this. So I think that's why the families are like, I understand, but I think there needs to be more leniency in these laws to give situations like this a little bit more ground to stand on. Because I mean, if they hadn't found her DNA in his taxi and his DNA on her, he could have confessed basically and never been tried for it.
Yeah, I think it's hard because it's like, obviously those laws are put into place to protect innocent people. And like you said, it seemed like without the physical evidence, this specific one would not have gone to trial. But I mean, I know here in the US, things like that, like you could go to trial just based on the confession. So I understand that they're put in place to prevent that from happening. But then in this case, it's like, well, that's what ended up leading you to this other victim. And you were able to get other evidence to this victim that, like you said, would not have happened without this.
Especially
it's tough because it's like this is the exception, to like why this is okay. But then you have other cases where it's like, well, you could have done the same thing and then railroaded an innocent person. So it's, yeah, like you said,
that's
it's a
the thing I
sword.
think is about this case, because it wasn't like he was just like, yeah, I killed her and I killed Becky. Like he didn't just go, yeah, I killed them. It's like he led them straight to where they were. And then once they searched, found them. So it's not like police like found a body and then like bullied him into confessing to it.
True.
It's like he didn't even like necessarily confess that much. It was more so just being like, here's one. So it is a confession, but it's like he was showing them where it was. But I get it, because it's like, it's just him, Steve Wiltshire, and a woman who works for the police department writing these notes down, who could obviously omit anything and she's handwriting it. Like it's going to take a long time. Like you're going to miss parts of the conversation. So it's like, I think that's like the different thing about this one of like maybe why it should have been allowed, because it's like, well, he still led them to the bodies they didn't have before. So it's like, but then how do you write a law with an exception like that? So then it's like, ugh, I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because, like you said, you definitely see both sides of it, and you wish there would be like well, after the fact, you can be like, well, it was worth it, so this guy's okay. But, obviously you can't work that way. But yeah, just a super sad case, and crazy, like you said, how it like all unfolded in the way that it did.
Yeah.
All right. So, Courtney, that being said, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is that even though Kevin will never listen to this, I owe him a public apology because about a month ago, I really wanted, my favorite artist is Phoebe Bridgers, and she was opening for Taylor Swift in Nashville. And I really just wanted to like drive to Nashville and just listen outside the stadium and then drive home. And he told me no. And then I was like, I really want to go see her and her band, like Boy Genius, on tour. And he's like, no, we're not doing it. We're trying to save money. Why would you suggest that? Like, quit it, blah, blah, blah. So I was very mad at him because I was like, well, the Kevin I met when I was however old I was when I met him would have just dropped in, just done it right then. So I was very annoyed at him, very mad at him. But apparently he'd already planned to get me the tickets for my birthday, which is why he was so adamantly no.
He's like, we're not driving there to listen to her in a parking lot when I bought tickets for you to actually see her.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm not going to buy these tickets for the Nashville concert because I already have another plan in Asheville. So I do owe him a public apology that he'll never. I did apologize to him also personally. Don't think I'm a bad person and only apologizing where you won't hear. But yeah, so he did give me tickets for my birthday, and then we're going to have a little like midweek trip to Asheville, which I think is fun because like,
yeah,
I never really take off like during the week unless it's like for a full week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm not taking the full week off, it's always like a Friday or like a Thursday, Friday or something. Like it's always like a long weekend. It's never like middle of the week. So I think this will be fun to kind of like break it up a little bit like that.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. That'll be fun.
That's my perk of the week is that a week from the time you hear this, I'll be seeing them and probably sobbing my eyes. But
that'll be really fun though.
Yeah. And he also got me a wine subscription box. So every other month, a new wine will be coming to my door that I'll get to try.
Very exciting.
Very excited for that. So shout out to Kevin.
Keep us updated on the wine situation.
I will. And he made sure it's only red wines because I'm not a white wine girly. So I'm very happy for that because I'm like, I don't need white wines coming because I don't like them.
I don't want those.
I mean, I'll try them, but I don't want it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I will keep you updated. And Kevin just knocked it out of the park for my birthday this year.
Yeah. So, did a great job. Very proud of him.
Yeah. So that is my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week, I'm pretty sure this was Courtney's perk of the week. Like, what just floated in front of your computer screen?
I don't know because I was looking outside because there was a very loud motorcycle. What did it look like?
I'm gonna send you the video of this.
Yeah, you're gonna show me the video once. I don't know.
It was like a long lot. What time are we at? 1:19. Okay, I gotta remember where we're at in this recording so I can send this
1:19.
to you.
Mine says 1:16.
Because I logged in before you.
Oh, but we also didn't start recording until like 32 minutes.
Oh, that's true. That's not going to be helpful.
Anyway, you can just go backwards from the time.
I'll find it. Yeah, there was some kind of orb situation going across your screen. So
it's probably the ghost, but no, there was this really loud like motorcycle outside. So I was like trying to look because I'm like, the fuck.
It may have been like a headlight glare then if it was a motorcycle.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's real creepy. Road outside my window.
Maybe we'll share that on the
That'll be on the Instagram story.
And you guys will, those who listen, you'll know what the hell's going on. Everybody else will be like, what is this? Anyway, I think this was Courtney's perk of the week like 2 months ago, but I'm like super behind on TV. So I'm going to piggyback on this at this point. But I finally finished Daisy Jones and the Six, and it was just perfection, like literal perfection. I think the book was my perk of the week like 2 years ago whenever I read the book because it was so good. And the show was just, I mean, like they nailed it like 100%. Like
it was so good.
I texted Courtney when I was like watching the last episode and I'm just like sobbing. Like it was just beautiful and perfection. Like I have no other words.
So many people like on the internet were like, I just don't like the casting. Like I don't like the people they chose. And I'm like, I just thought it was so good.
I thought the casting was perfect. Like,
yeah, like
if you guys have watched, please chat with us because we want to talk about it.
The girl crush I have on Riley, is it Keough? Is that how you say her last name? I think. I don't know. Girl crush I have on her. But I also don't know. I don't know if you know this because I was on a very deep Daisy Jones and the Six side of TikTok while I watched it. I don't know if you know this. But her guitar strap that she uses in like a few episodes was Elvis's guitar strap because she's his granddaughter. So she used his guitar strap in some of the scenes as like a homage to him.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it was fantastic. Tell us about your TV shows, about your concerts, your wine subscriptions. Are you a red wine girly or a white wine girly?
I need to know.
And is your best friend the opposite? Because I feel like that's how it always has to go.
Yeah.
Tell us your thoughts on this case. You guys know the drill. You guys know where you know. My brain just buffered and stopped.
So. There's been a few times this recording when I've been like, are you frozen? And then you keep going. I was like, oh no, you personally froze.
I also, side note, I know we're trying to end this episode, but I taught a class for my work like right before Courtney and I got on this recording, which is probably also why I'm brain dead. But I was thinking to myself, the things that I like cut out of are recording because I'm like, wow, I just like completely fucked up my words and I have to like say this again. But like when I'm teaching, it's like, well, that's just what you get. And so
those are just
like,
the words that came out of my mouth, and we're just gonna keep rolling.
Exactly. I'm like, thank God this is not recorded, and these people are probably like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, anyway, but you guys know where to find us on all the things. We it's in our show notes. We are on patreon.com/caffeinated crimes. In April and May, we had episodes come out all about me and then all about Courtney for our birthdays. So if you guys want to hear some juicy secrets, it didn't get that deep, but if you guys want to learn more about us and some like personal things that, we don't talk about as much on the show because obviously you guys are here for the cases and not for us. But yeah, all of that over there and other bonus episodes. Sometimes we do like shorter cases that don't have as much information or, just some other different type things that we don't normally do here on the regular feed. But we got some cool stuff over there if you guys want to check it out. That's, again, patreon.com/caffeinated crimes.
Yeah, and if you'll please give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcast, subscribe on YouTube, like it, anything like that, just to get us noticed a little bit more. That would be absolutely incredible. But in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.